My name is Natasha Sylvia, and today I'm going to show you how to use the discussion web reading strategy in your classroom. So what is a discussion web? Donna E. Alberman, author of Content Area Literacy Instruction for the Elementary Grades, states that a discussion web is a tool that helps students organize their thoughts when considering an issue from multiple perspectives. Students work together to answer a question by analyzing a specific text selection, considering the pros and cons of the situation, and ultimately coming to a consensus on the particular topic. This photo is one of many examples of the organization of a discussion web. This particular web uses a fictional text, and the guiding question relates to the conflict in the book. Later on in this presentation, I will show you how the discussion web strategy can be used across multiple disciplines and with a variety of texts. Why are discussion webs so useful? Discussion webs are used to engage students in meaningful discussion about the text. Students are required to analyze the text and produce supporting evidence to support the argument they are trying to make. Discussion webs are small group activities and therefore promote group critical thinking. Students are given the opportunity, through this reading strategy, to consider different sides of an issue before coming to a conclusion about an aspect of the text. Discussion webs follow the think, pair, share cycle, meaning that students must first read the text and think about what question they want to answer. They work in pairs to analyze the evidence presented in the text and to answer the question. Lastly, they share their conclusions with each other, as well as the whole class. The web structure provides students with an efficient way to organize their information and supporting evidence. It is important that the question asked reflects more than one point of view, so that it can be argued during the partner discussion and small group discussion portions of the activity. The ultimate goal is that students are able to come to a consensus on the answer to the initial question. Discussion webs are versatile and can be used across many disciplines. In math, discussion webs can be used to determine the relevance of information in a word problem. Students organize the information in the problem in order to determine what information is necessary to solve the problem. Discussion webs lend themselves naturally to science because students can use them to compare hypotheses in an experiment. Using discussion webs in social studies allows students to compare historical figures or events, and can also be used to explore two sides of major issues. And in literature, discussion webs can be used for character analysis or to discuss both sides of a major conflict. You may be wondering how discussion webs work in the classroom. The steps for implementation are as follows. Step 1. Prepare your students for reading. Step 2. Assign students to read the selection. Step 3. Introduce your students to the discussion web structure and the guiding question. Step 4. Divide students into pairs and have them work together to generate pro and con responses to the guiding question. Step 5. Have each pair combine with another pair and work together to share their conclusions and come to a consensus. Step 6. One spokesperson from each small group shares their conclusion with the entire class. Step 7. Students record their individual responses after the whole group discussion is complete. I will now describe each step in more detail and provide a model of what this process will look like in the classroom. For this lesson, I am going to use a social studies textbook for 5th grade students. The students will be using the information in this book to discuss the causes of World War I and the United States' involvement in the war. Step 1. Prepare your students for reading. Before your students approach the new text, it is important that you prepare them for what they will be reading. Take some time to generate questions and predictions and to activate the students' prior knowledge. An excellent way to do this is by using a KWL chart to determine what they know and what they would like to know about World War I. If this is the first time that your students will encounter this particular textbook, examining the table of contents and familiarizing them with the structure of the book will also be beneficial. Step 2. Assign students the reading selection. For this discussion web assignment, students will be reading a short 5-page unit on the beginning of World War I. Step 3. Introduce students to the discussion web and the guiding question. A discussion web template like this one is an excellent tool and will help your students stay organized. It is essential that you model how to fill in the information for your students before they complete this task on their own. Generate a question for the students to answer and have them write it in the center of their web. In this example, the guiding question is, should the United States have joined the war? Partners will share the same web and take turns writing down information. Step 4. Have students work in pairs to generate pro and con responses. Students will use information from the text selection to provide evidence for both sides of the argument. It is fine if students only use keywords or phrases when writing down their supporting information. It is also important that the students provide equal amounts of evidence for both sides. In this example, the yes column argues that Germany attempted to form an alliance with Mexico in order to provoke war with the United States. It also states that German submarines sunk both American merchant ships and the British passenger ship, the Lusitania, which contained American travelers. The no column argues that the fight is strictly between European countries, and that two of the biggest causal events, the sinking of the Lusitania and the assassination of Archduke Francis Ferdinand, only affected those in Europe. Combine partners to work towards a consensus and final conclusion. Each pair combines with another pair to form a group of 4. The group shares their ideas with each other while keeping an open mind and must come to a consensus that they will later share with the entire class. It is important to express to your students that disagreement is okay, but that it is necessary that they try to work together to come to a group conclusion. In this example, the group decides that the United States did make the right decision by going to war. Their reasons include aggression from Germany, the sinking of the Lusitania, and European immigrants in the United States who wanted to support their home countries. Step 6. Students select a spokesperson to share their group conclusion. Each group will choose a spokesperson to share their conclusion with the entire class. It is important that students also share the evidence that brought them to the conclusion. Whole group discussion is also the best time to discuss any disagreements that may have come up during small group discussion. Step 7. Students record their individual responses after a whole group discussion is complete. One way to do this is by using a classroom parking lot where each student can write down their own conclusion and display it for the entire class to read at a later time. Another way for students to debrief and record their responses is in a classroom journal. This step is essential because it allows the teacher to check for individual understanding. Now that I have taken you through the step-by-step process, here are some final thoughts on discussion webs and their use in the classroom. Discussion webs lead to high levels of participation. This strategy encourages individual interpretation, and students are eager to hear each other's ideas, as well as the ways in which each group was able to come to a consensus. Discussion webs work with informational and narrative texts and can be adapted to most content areas. You are now ready to use the discussion web strategy in your classroom. Enjoy, and thanks for watching!